We're going to be talking about pseudo classes, and basically they are named for the fact that they are classes that are not actually attached to tags in the markup. Pseudo classes cause rules to be applied when certain events occur. The most common event that you'll be dealing with pseudo classes is when the user points or clicks on something on the web page. So what this is going to basically do is when someone rolls over a link, you can style the link to have something different happen, or when the user clicks the link, you can style something to happen. That's an example of a pseudo class. You probably have seen this happening on web pages many times. It's very easy to do using CSS, and it really opens up a lot of possibilities for creating some beautiful dynamic web pages. So basically, pseudo classes are most commonly going to affect links, and that's what we're going to be dealing with first. So this is the web page that we're going to be working with. It basically is very simple markup. We have a header, we have several paragraphs that all have a link within them, and then we just have some more paragraphs down here, and we'll kind of be working with these a little bit later on. If we look at what this page looks like in the browser, this is simply what it looks like. So these are basically just my links right here. If I use these links at all, you can see that they're using the default bright blue color, and they all have underlines. This is the default color in just about all browsers, unless the user has specifically changed what they want their default link color to be. When I'm actually in the process of clicking the link, you can see how it changes to this bright red. That basically is a demonstration of the active link color. That's what the link's going to look like when it's being clicked. Most people don't really notice active links because usually they just click something really quick. They're not physically keeping their mouse down like I am right now. So a lot of times the active link color might not be as important as some of the other ones. Once I've actually clicked this link, and this is just going to a null link, so I won't actually leave the page, but you can see that the link color itself has now changed to a purple shade. The purple shade is once again the default color that the browser uses to illustrate that that link has been visited. This is the visited link color. It basically is an indication that the user has clicked this link at some point in the past. So those are the default states that we see: link, visited, and active when we're dealing with HTML or XHTML pages. When you use CSS, you also have the additional of the hover class. And the hover class is what the link looks like when it's actually being pointed at or rolled over. So you can definitely, it opens up a lot of possibilities with design with having a hover link. So we're just going to kind of do some simple stuff with color and background color right now. Coming back to my web page, you can see that I already have the tags to add the style to my page, and once again, since we're only working on this one page, I'm going to go ahead and be working with the styles right within this web page. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just create an overall style that's going to affect my header and my paragraph tags, and this is just to kind of remind us of some things that we already covered. So I'm going to start off by making a style for my H2 and my paragraph tags, and this style of course is going to affect both. That's why I'm going ahead and placing them both within the same setting. I just separate them by a comma. We've talked a little bit about that before. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to specify the font family, and we'll just go ahead and we'll use Arial as the font family. I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to set the font color, and let's just go ahead and specify the font color is going to be like this dark gray. So I'm going to save my page, and if we come back to the web page and reload it, you can see now that the text is all changed to Arial, both the H2 and the paragraph tags, and of course my links are within the paragraph tag, so they changed font family, and then the color of the text changed slightly too. It went from black to this dark gray. So now let's go ahead and let's go about styling our links. I'm going to begin by creating a new selector for the link, and I'm going to start by just doing the regular old link color. To specify the link, you're going to go ahead and you're going to use the pseudo class selector of a:*link, and then you just go about writing your normal CSS brackets like you normally would. we'll go ahead and we'll change the link color. So I'm going to go ahead and specify color, and I'm going to be using a kind of like a bluish color right here. So if I save my page and I reload the page, you can see that now the links that have not been visited have changed color. One kind of cool thing that you can do with CSS is you can remove the underline, and that's something that a lot of people have, enjoyed doing. As far as usability, it might not always be the best thing to remove the underline. You certainly want to make sure that your links stand out in some other capacity. A lot of times if people are reading body copy, they're used to looking for the underline, so just be kind of cautious of that. You might, want to think twice about removing the underline, but there certainly are situations where it would be important to move the underline. If I was making links that I was incorporating into a navigation, or that I wanted to have more of a graphical style, I definitely would not want to incorporate the underline. And we'll work more with some kind of more sophisticated projects later on in this course where we will certainly be using this a lot. But now, just because it makes such an impact, let's go ahead and let's get rid of the underline. To get rid of the underline, you're going to go ahead and you're going to specify text decoration, and you're going to set that to none. So if I save this and I go back to my page and I reload the page, you can see how the underline has now disappeared from my links. It has not disappeared from the visited link, and that's because I haven't styled this yet. So once we style this and specify, we can get rid of the underline here too if we want to. So this is what they look like now. Let's go ahead and let's style the next portion of our link, which is going to be the visited. So I'm going to come into a visited, open my curly brace just like we did before, and for the a visited, let's just go ahead and let's change the color. So I'm going to specify the color, and I'm going to set the color to a red. Oops. I need the number to be right next to the hash mark. I'm going to save, and if I come back and refresh the page, you can now see how the visited has changed to kind of this brick red. You might notice that the underline remains. If I want the underline to be removed for this state, I would have to come in here and I would have to explicitly go ahead and style the text decoration to be, not text align, but text decoration to be set to none. So we'll go ahead and we'll set that here as well. Let's save that and refresh. And now you can see the underline disappears there as well. So we've styled link, and we've also styled the visited link. Let's go ahead and let's style the hover next. So I'm going to type a:hover, open my curly brace and close my curly brace. And for the a hover, let's go ahead and let's just set the color. So I'm going to go ahead and set a style for the color. And the color I'm using is not a web safe color. It's a kind of a light deviation of the blue that I was using from before. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in that hex value, which is this, and I'll save this. And now if I reload the page, you can see how all of my links change color when I hover over them. If I physically click down on the links, you can see that I no longer see that change in the active link color like we did before, and that's because I specified some styles here. So the active link color, if I want there to be an active link color, I would have to actually go ahead and style it. So let's do that next. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to style or create a style for active link, and our active link is going to go ahead and just take on a color, and let's just make this a lighter gray or something like that. So I'll just use this 999 color. I'm going to save my page and I'm going to refresh it. And now if I physically click down, you can see how the active link color changes to this gray now. So any of these that I'm actually clicking down on, my active link color is now actually active. So we've basically styled all of these. Let's add a little bit more to our hover state just so it's a little bit more obvious. I'm going to go back to my hover and I'm going to add the addition of background color. And the background color that I want to use is going to be the same color that I initially used for my links, which was that darker blue. So they're going to kind of like reverse out. So if we reload the page now, you can see when I hover over, they have a background color, and then the actual link color becomes lighter. The possibilities really are, quite amazing when you think about being able to style the hover color. It really gives you a lot of power, and you can create a lot of different looks and variations in your design. When you pair up the pseudo classes with contextual selectors, then you can really create a bunch of different looks and behaviors for various groups of links within your design. Like the navigation might have a certain look, footers, sidebars, links within the body copy of your text. And this really allows you to make a really interesting web page, and you can incorporate images and all kinds of fun things, and we'll be exploring that later on in the course, as I mentioned. But I want to just introduce these right now. You don't always have to have all of the links defined. Sometimes it might not make sense to have the active link color, just because it's like, most people, they just click the link and then they go to the website and they don't actually, spend a lot of time looking at that active link color. So you could just leave that selector off. You don't have to define it. One thing, though, that you need to remember about using pseudo classes is that in some situations, the classes that you define, the declarations that you define, might not always work the way you want if you don't define the pseudo classes in this order. You always defined a link, a visited, a hover, and a active. So if you want a quick way of remembering that, I always think of, and I'll just write it here on the page, love ha, and it just makes it easy to remember. So L is for the link, V is for visited, H is for hover, and A is for active. And it's kind of a silly little thing, but love ha, it was the only thing I could really think of that would replicate this. So if that works for you, feel free to remember that. If not, I don't know if you guys come up with a better way to remember this, then let me know. But you definitely want to get in the habit of putting them in this order. If I decided I didn't want an active link, I could just not have the active link, but the ones that I am using need to be in the order specified. So I'm just going to leave my active link color in there for now. So that's basically how the pseudo classes work. What I want to go over next, and just to kind of touch upon this, is that it is possible to use any selector with the pseudo classes, not just the A tag like we just demonstrated right here. So for example, I could actually create a pseudo class on like my paragraphs or something like that. Now, let me just point out that this is something that is supported in all of the newer browsers, but unfortunately, IE, specifically IE6, and in some cases IE7, it does have problems, and IE6 doesn't support it at all. It only supports hovering on the A tag. So any other pseudo class that you try to use in IE6 is not going to be supported. It's only supported if you use some sort of JavaScript workaround. And I just want to point that out. So for some reason, if you do feel really compelled to make a style for your paragraphs to hover, it's not going to work on IE6. So think about your user base and if that's something that would affect the usability of the website, and it very well may be. So I'm not recommending that you necessarily put a, make a style for hovering over your paragraphs, because it probably isn't a very good idea in a lot of situations, but I just want to point out that it is possible. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to create a style for the background color of my paragraphs, and we'll just go ahead and we'll use I'm having some problems with my spacing. We'll go ahead and we'll use just a yellow color, I guess. So I'm just going to kind of get a yellow. I'm going to save my page and I'm going to reload my page. So, whoops, that went to my link for some reason. I think I hit back instead of reload. So let's just reload my page. Now when I hover over any paragraph, you can see how the whole paragraph block has now become highlighted. Now this is also going to affect my links because my links are located within a paragraph, and that could be problematic. Like for some reason maybe I only want the paragraphs down here to excuse me, be affected by this rollover. I would have to go ahead and I would have to use some contextual selectors, specifically some div tags, to be able to break up my page. So let's just do that real quick so that we can see how that works, and just to review that as well. So right here I'm just going to surround my first portion of my web page with a div, and I'm going to go ahead and give this an ID of link. We'll just call it link box, and of course I'm putting these in quotes. And then I'm going to come down here to after the last paragraph that contains my links, and I'll close my div. And then these two paragraphs down here that are just kind of free floating, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a div for those as well, and we'll just call these p box for paragraph box. And of course the name of this needs to be, I need to put ID equals p box, and then I'll close that tag. And then I'll just go ahead and put the ending tag down here after my last paragraph. So like we learned before, the divs actually aren't going to change the way the content looks at all on the page. And since I haven't changed my styles at all, I still have the rollover affecting any p tag. You can see how it doesn't affect my h2 tag, but any p tag is being affected, and the rollover is turning yellow. Let's say I just want to isolate these two paragraphs to have the yellow background, but I don't want these to be affected. I can go ahead and I can style that, and if I come back up here to my style, if I just go ahead and I target the p box divs, and I do that by using the hash mark, and I type p box just like I named my div down here, and I'm going to go ahead and just use my hover. If I save my page and I refresh my page in the browser back here, you can see that now these two paragraphs do keep their rollover functionality, but the ones up here do not take on that yellow background. They take on the link settings that we specified, but not this background of the paragraphs. So that's kind of an interesting thing that we can work with as well, and I just wanted to kind of visit that because you might come across it. Once again though, the most commonly used pseudo classes are going to be for your links, and that's probably where you get the most mileage out of pseudo classes.